With travelling constantly for work and having a young family at home, my gaming time's almost exclusively limited to portable gaming these days. I've been a fan of the Nintendo Switch since day one, and I recently picked up a Steam Deck, and after using them both on the road and at home, I wanted to share my thoughts. I'm Kutski, and this is my comparison between the Nintendo Switch and the Valve Steam Deck.
Get ready!
Okay, firstly, this isn't going to be a technical comparison. Obviously, the Steam Deck is a much more powerful console than the Nintendo Switch, but for portable consoles, this isn't always the most important factor. I've had the Switch since launch in 2017 and upgraded to the OLED model about a year ago. I've been really happy with it, especially the portability. The battery life's great, I easily get about 5 or 6 hours on the go. A lot of people complain that the hardware's getting a bit long in the tooth now, but I haven't really felt that, mostly playing indie and first party games, which always looked fine with perfectly acceptable performance in my opinion. I picked up a Steam Deck, not really with the intention of replacing the Switch, but to give me access to the few AAA games that did interest me and are not on the Switch, along with the ability to emulate retro consoles because I'm a nerd like that. My first impression with the Steam Deck is that it's huge. I think that's everybody's first reaction. This, in addition to the well-designed yet bulky case that's included, does make it a bit of a pain to travel, especially if you're trying to travel light. You will fit it in a backpack, but it's going to be the first thing that you put in your bag and then you're going to have to pack around it. The positive of the Steam Deck's size though, is it's way more comfortable to hold when playing. I did find with long play sessions on the Nintendo Switch handheld using the Joy-Cons left me with hand cramps at times. Steam Deck, however, is much more ergonomic and feels like you're holding a traditional gamepad. And despite its size, it doesn't actually feel that heavy to hold. The battery life on the Steam Deck is a sticking point for me though. As I mentioned, I'm getting about 5 or 6 hours AAA gaming on my year-old Switch OLED. The first game that I played on the Steam Deck was Yakuza, Like a Dragon, and I was struggling to get 1.5 hours out of that, even after tweaking the settings to preserve battery life. This does sound terrible, and I was pretty annoyed by it at first. But in practice, I found most of the places where I was going to be gaming for fairly long sessions, I'd have access to a power outlet. It's far from ideal, but not as much of a frustration as I initially thought it was going to be. And playing other less CPU intensive games, I found I could get a much more acceptable 3 or 4 hours on the battery. The screen was the third thing that I found disappointing out of the box, especially coming from the beautiful Switch OLED. The Steam Deck screen just looks pale and cheap in comparison. Especially when the screen fades to black at any point, you can see all the light bleed around the edges, which seems to be a common complaint. Again though, this is incredibly noticeable when you're comparing them side by side, but when you're actually just playing games and not analysing, the screen actually looks fine, and it's not something that I've ever thought about too much since. The emulation is a huge plus for me on the Steam Deck though. I've been using EmuDeck, it's very easy to set up and extremely impressive results, with consoles up to the Dreamcast era. Much better than the Raspberry Pi that I've been using up until now. I know you can jailbreak the Switch to do similar, but you're taking a risk with your hardware there, and it's definitely not as easy or convenient. So, my initial impressions of the Steam Deck were a bit mixed. I thought it was going to be a cool toy to play with for a little bit, but I thought I'd probably default back to my Switch as my go-to travel companion. However, after taking a few trips, I got used to the drawbacks of the size and the battery and started to appreciate the advancement the Steam Deck has over the Switch. Yakuza, Like a Dragon is an absolutely brilliant game. I started playing this on the PlayStation last year, but I just don't have the time to sit in front of a TV and play an RPG like this. But on the Steam Deck, I completed the game with over 100 hours on my save file. It genuinely made long-haul flights fly by, if you'll excuse the pun. And I could never have played a game like this on the Switch. Another big plus for the deck is the Steam ecosystem. Not only do you have access to a much bigger library of games, but the games which are on both consoles are usually substantially cheaper on Steam and perform better. I recently wanted to pick up the 3D indie platform game Tinykin. I thought this might be a better purchase on the Switch due to the game not looking overly demanding, and for all the reasons I mentioned I love the Switch before. I downloaded the demo on the Switch and it was great, looked really vibrant on the Switch OLED screen and it played nicely. It seemed to be the obvious choice on that platform, however looking at the store I noticed it was about £22 on the Switch and only $15 on Steam. I decided to go for the cheaper option, if for no other reason than it'd be a good opportunity to compare like for like, and I have to say, the Steam Deck version is far superior. 60 frames a second as opposed to 30, much better lighting, more detailed artwork. This was especially noticeable when looking into the distance. Again, the Switch OLED screen certainly pops a lot more with the colours, but overall the game looks and plays better on the Steam Deck, and was significantly cheaper. After having the Steam Deck for a couple of months now, I think it has replaced the Switch in my personal scenario, and that's honestly not something that I was expecting going in. It's certainly a case of swings and roundabouts. I've encountered some problems with game compatibility on the Steam Deck, and one DLC update for Yakuza corrupted the game so badly I had to uninstall and reinstall it just to get it to load. I've had a few EA games that won't load without an internet connection, which makes them useless on a flight, but I mean basically f*** EA at this point. But these are generally problems that you're never going to have on the Switch. Nintendo obviously have some great first-party exclusives, which are a big plus for the Switch. I know someone in the comments is going to talk about Switch emulation on the Steam Deck, which I have seen running fine, but in my experience, it's not really that simple to set up. And as guilty as I am for pirating discontinued retro games and consoles, I do like to support new games and re-releases wherever I can. Apologies for the slightly rambling video, but I did think it might be interesting to anyone else who was interested in picking up a Steam Deck. I've tried to condense my thoughts into a list of pros and cons for each console. So the Switch pros are how slim and portable it is. It's got a great screen, especially on the OLED model. It's got great battery life, great first-party games, and it's a reliable gaming experience. The cons are there's going to be very few third-party AAA games. The multi-platform games that are on the Switch are often inferior. It's more expensive for the same games, and the controllers are a little bit small and fiddly when playing portable. The Steam Deck pros are it is going to play most AAA multi-platform games. Emulation is easy and reliable, the games are cheaper, superior performance, and it's comfortable if you're an adult with adult-sized hands. The cons, as I've mentioned before, it is big and bulky, so not the most portable. It's got a fairly poor battery life when compared to the Switch. You are likely to run into PC gaming style technical problems at some point. The screen looks significantly cheaper, and offline play can be unreliable. All of this said, if I could only keep one console going forward, it'd definitely be the Steam Deck, and that was not something that I was expecting when I bought it, even after a week of using it. But after a few months of getting used to its quirks, I would recommend the Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch for anyone in a similar gaming situation as me. Hope you found this helpful. If so, please drop me a like on the video and consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like to keep up to date with future videos, which is going to cover content mostly indie and retro gaming on the Switch and now Steam Deck. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this is Kutski signing out, keeping the games alive.